Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I'm going to be talking about all of my 5-star reads today, so you can expect a very positive, very gushing, very loving type of video from me today because I have quite a few 5-star reads that I've read this year because by this point, I think I've finished about 140 books, and if I've counted correctly, I have about 29 books that I've given 4.5 or 5 stars to. I'm going to have to be honest here that I have rounded up the 4.5 stars to 5 stars. That's why I have that many. But just looking through the list that I've made for myself, I'm not mad that the 4.5 stars have been rounded up to 5 because most of them I've just thoroughly enjoyed. So yeah, I'm just going to dive in and tell you all about these books that I've loved this year. And most of them, I've just selected a couple of tropes that I can tell you about because if you're interested in my full opinions, you can check out the videos that I've posted about them scattered throughout my channel. I honestly don't know if I'll have the opportunity to put in the description box every video that I've covered these books in, but I'm going to see whether I can do that, and if I can, I will. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive in with all of the 5-star reads that I had this year. The first one, we started off with a really good one. It's my first book that I read by Liz Tomforde, and Liz Tomforde is now definitely an auto-buy author for me. The books that I read first is Mile High out of the Windy City series, and I absolutely love this book. It's a hockey romance, it has forced proximity, it's kind of a workplace romance, so a bit forbidden as well because we have a hockey player and a flight attendant who is hired to fly around with their team to their away game, so they definitely work together, and there is kind of an unspoken rule that they shouldn't date. And we have also representation for a plus size heroine as well as a heroine who is volunteering at a shelter, an animal shelter. Those are all things that made me absolutely fall in love with this story, so I definitely recommend this one. And then the next couple of 5-star reads are all part of a series that I read at the start of the year, and I actually posted a vlog about the full experience of reading this series. It's by Lucia Franco and it's the Off Balance series. This series really had me in a chokehold. I have to say that it's my favorite series that I've read this year, and yeah, it's an absolute kind of a roller coaster ride, if you will. It's a toxic relationship, age gap, forbidden, taboo between a coach and an athlete, and the age gap is quite big. So if you don't like big age gaps, please research this book before you dive into it. But yeah, there's just so much toxicity going on within this story, and there's so much drama, and you just want to know what happens in the end. There is chronic illness representation for lupus and just so much goodness. There is cheating involved within this story, so bear that in mind as well, but I just ate it up. I ate it up and I'm not mad about it, and I can't wait to meet Lucia Franco at Rare in Florence. And yeah, I just highly recommend this one if you're in for a good time. Now, the next one, I read my first historical romances this year, which were all recommended by Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings. And the first one that I read is The Duchess Deal by Tessa, and I absolutely love this book. I think as someone who has never read a historical, this was exactly the type of book that I wanted to pick up because it made me intrigued to read more stories like this one. The tropes within this one are, we have a marriage of convenience, we have a scarred hero, we have a grumpy sunshine dynamic, we have a lot of fun banter within the story as well. And I think it's just an amazingly light, engaging, and fun read. It's a short one as well, so I definitely would recommend it for a newbie historical romance reader. And then the next one out of the same kind of video that I did reading my first historicals is again The Magic by Lisa Kleypas. This one is a second chance romance. We have a bit of a revenge plot going on within this story because we have a situation where the hero and heroine were childhood lovers, but something broke them up, and the hero is very jilted by the experience and he wants revenge on her and her family. So there is a revenge plot going on, and we have a disability rep within this story as well. There is class difference between the two characters, and it's a very magical read. It's a magical read. I definitely would recommend it, and yeah, it was an amazing one to again start off with. Now, the next one is by a favorite author of mine. I love Kay Tucker. The Simple Wild series is an absolute favorite series of mine. And the book that I picked up that is definitely not similar to any of the books that I've read by Kay Tucker before is Until It Fades. It's a small town romance where we have a single mom. There is a bit of a celebrity trope because the heroine saves a very famous hockey player when he had an accident, and she doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know that she saved him, so he's kind of looking for who saved him so he can thank them, and the two of them have a romance. So it's a very interesting story. I really like the setup, and I was very much intrigued by how their dynamic is going to go. So yeah, this one is definitely a 5-star read for me as well. Next up is a story that is not a romance, but I definitely think it's 5-star worthy. The book is called The Gravity of Missing Things by Marissa Urgo, and it's a YA mystery thriller, and it has a very good queer rep. It involves a teenager whose mom is a pilot, and she goes missing during a flight, and the teenager, together with her family, want to find out what has happened and want to have answers about the disappearance of this plane and their mom. So it's a very gripping story, and I definitely would recommend it. And then the next one is, I think, one of the top reads for me. It's going to end up in my top 10 for sure. It's again by Liz Tomforde, and it's the second book within the Windy City series. You can definitely read it as a standalone, but I definitely recommend that you pick up both because they're both amazing. The second book is called The Right Move, and it's another sports romance, but this time we don't have hockey, but we have a basketball star. We've got the heroine from the first book's brother, who has this amazing apartment. He lives on his own, and she begs him for a favor to have her best friend live with him because she's in a dire situation. She doesn't have any place to live. So we've got forced proximity. We have a bit of fake dating. We've got opposites attract. We've got best friend's brother. We've got quiet love. This is a trope that is, I think, kind of coined for this type of situation here. A lot of small gestures, a lot of romance within this story. I absolutely loved it, and I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. And then the next one is another book that will end up in my top 10 of the year. It's Finding Gene Kelly by Torrie Jean. This book is a foodie romance. First of all, it has amazing chronic representation for endometriosis. We've got childhood, friends to enemies to lovers. We've got a pining hero. We've got grumpy sunshine. We have a caretaking situation going on. It's always been you. So there's just so many amazing tropes within this book. And it's also set in Paris for most of the book, which I absolutely loved. So yeah, this one is a top read for me, and I definitely recommend it. Speaking about chronic illness representation, I think that Evie Mitchell does it so well. She does it in every single book that she writes. And the book that I gave 5 stars to this year is Not My Type. This book involves a BDSM element, disability rep. The heroine is in a wheelchair. We've got a small town romance. We've got a bit of an alpha, kind of a recluse, kind of a hero, and a very outgoing heroine. And I absolutely love this one. The next one is Mr. Romance by Lisa Rayven. I absolutely love this book. I've mentioned quite a few times now on my channel that I have been missing romances with a lot of romance represented in them. I feel like nowadays romances are very much leaning towards the smutty parts within a story because that is what the market is kind of craving for at the moment. But me as a reader, I'm more intrigued by the romance within the story, and I believe that this book really is the epitome of what we look for within a romance. This book has enemies to lovers. It has a bit of fake dating, but in a bit of an unconventional way. We've got an amazing hero who just proves over and over again that really men who can exceed our expectations really do exist. And yeah, I absolutely love this one. So this year I've been working through the backlist of Karina, Halle, and I did give one of their books 5 stars, which is The Forbidden Man. This book is a sports romance where we have the hero who is a soccer player, the heroine is a therapist, she's a physical therapist, and there's an age gap, and the woman is older than the man. And we've got a bit of a forbidden situation because they work together. We've got a bit of an exotic hero because he's from Spain, she's from the UK. So it's a setup for an amazing story, if you ask me. It's a bit of a slow burn as well. So yeah, I absolutely love this one. So the next story, I believe I gave 5 stars to because I really connected with it. I think that it may not be a 5-star read for everyone, but for me, I just really had so much fun with it and I related to it very well. The book is called A Really Bad Idea by Jeannine Colette. And the story is a best friends to lovers situation where the woman is in her 30s and she decides that she wants to have kids, but she doesn't have a partner because I think she recently got divorced. And she's like, I'm going to go through IVF and just select a donor. But her best friend is like, that is not going to happen, not on my watch. I'm going to help you out. You're going to have my baby and we're going to take care of it. So yeah, this is the situation. We have a friends with benefits that leads to pregnancy situation going on within this story, and I just ate it up. I found it really relatable in some situations, banter filled, which I absolutely loved, and I just flew through it. So yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. So the next story is a non-fiction book. It's a memoir by Jennette McCurdy. It was wildly popular last year and I think in a portion of this year as well. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died, and it's kind of an overview of her life as a child celebrity, rising star, and how her relationship with her mother impacted her whole life basically. And it was a tough read and it definitely deserves 5 stars because it was beautifully written, beautifully narrated by the author herself, and yeah, it was an impactful read. So this year I did a couple of rereads of a couple of my favorite books, and one of them is Amor Amore by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I think that this book will forever remain a 5-star read for me. I think it had just such an impact on me when I first read it that I'll always have like fond memories and connections to it. It centers on a circus family and a woman who very much wants to join this circus company in Las Vegas, and we've got a bit of an age gap going on. We've got a lot of kind of found family situations going on, and I just had so much fun rereading this and being in that world again. Like I mentioned, it will forever be a 5-star read for me. Next up, we have the second book within the Mr. Romance world by Lisa Rayven. The book is called Professor Feelgood. It's not really very much connected to the first book. The only thing that really connects them is the fact that the heroine in the second book is the sister of the heroine in the first book. And we've got this heroine who is in publishing, and she's kind of trying to find this new scoop to have in publishing. She has this mysterious guy on Instagram who has these posts that are going viral, and she kind of wants him to sign with their publishing house to release a book. And it turns out that it's an old acquaintance of hers, so we have a bit of an enemies to lovers situation going on. We have forced proximity going on, kind of workplace romance, if you will, as well. And there's a pining hero as well. Even though he's kind of pissed off at her at the start, he's definitely a pining hero. And a lot of romance again, just a lot of romantic moments within this story, which is why I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. The next book is another book that I believe will end up in my top reads of 2023. It's by Carissa Broadbent. It's part of her Daughter of No World series. It's the second book called Children of Fallen Gods. And I believe that this book is my favorite out of the series because we had the most progression within the story, the most kind of reveals and the most character development. This is a fantasy romance series where we have a friends to lovers situation. We've got a slow burn, definitely, and we kind of have also a secondary romance plot between two other characters that is also very interesting to follow, that begins actually in the second book. So it was definitely a very interesting read, and I'm very much intrigued by many more other reads that I hope to pick up by this author. So yeah, this one was a 5-star read for me as well. Another reread that I did is for Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This book I read because it was available to me on audio and I had read the physical copy before, and I love the audiobook as well. I think I didn't have maybe the same experience as I did when I first read it, but I still appreciated the same aspects within it, so it's still a 5-star read for me. The book is an hockey new adult college romance, and it's not only hockey, but the heroine is also a figure skater who is wanting to compete in the Olympics, so it's very competitive. Both of them are in competitive sports. The story starts off with them being kind of rivals because of a specific situation that happens at the start of the book, to friends to lovers. And what I loved about the story is that there is great representation for therapy, just going to therapy, working on your communication with other people. There is a bit of trigger warnings regarding food disorders, but I generally just really like the story. For a new adult story, I think that this was really well done. And yeah, I definitely want to pick up the next one, which is I think called Wildfire, but I'm not sure. But I definitely will be following more from this author. Many times over, I've shared my love for Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I had not yet picked up After I Do by this author, and I think that this is one of the impactful books that I definitely wanted to read because it's a marriage in trouble situation, and I think I should leave it at that. Honestly, I'm not going to mention much more about what the plot is about, but this is a very interesting take on how to try and save a marriage. So I really appreciated it. I was really invested in it, and I just want to have more stories like this where we see people struggling within their relationship and seeing how they deal with it. So yeah, this was a definite 5-star read, another favorite of mine by this author, and I'll be reading more. Next up, we have a more light-hearted read. The book is by Christina Lauren, the author duo, and it's called The True Love Experiment. It's the second book that follows up The Soulmate Equation, and this is a reality TV kind of friends to lovers situation, and a bit of forbidden romance because the two of them work together on a dating show. We've got a single dad within the plot as well, and a lot of banter, a lot of good conversations, a lot of fun situations. I really love this type of rom-com where you don't really feel like it's a cliched type of rom-com. So yeah, this one was a definite hit for me. Next up, we have possibly the steamiest book that is on this list. The book is called The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. I think that nobody does steam like Nikki Sloan. She's so original when it comes to the smut within a book. This story is a new adult story where we have the hero who is from a fraternity, the heroine who is from a sorority house. They have a bit of beef going on because of a situation that happened at the start of the book, and both of them are in dire situations. They don't have anywhere to live because of what happened, and they both respond to an ad to start working in the adult entertainment industry, not knowing of each other that they're going to be working together and living together. So we have forced proximity, we've got enemies to lovers, we've got a lot of top-notch steam, a lot of also situations where the steam turns to MFM, like a lot of menages, a lot of different steamy elements within the story because we follow people who are in the adult entertainment industry. So this was such a fun, original type of read for me, and I'm just in awe of Nikki Sloan because typically smutty reads will not end up in my top reads of the year, but this one just really did it for me. Next up, we have two books by the same author, a new to me author that I absolutely loved, and both of them are within the same series. The first one is Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. This book centers on two people who are in their 20s and due to circumstance are both now single parents. One of them is a guardian, the other one is a parent. Both of them, or actually typically, I think both of them are guardians in this situation, because he is taking care of his little brother and she's taking care of her baby sister. So both of them, because they want to keep custody of their respective siblings, decide that they're going to join this program where they're going to live together so their financial needs are better met. And slowly but surely they start to help each other out. There's forced proximity, obviously, because they share an apartment. There's a bit of grumpy sunshine going on as well. So yeah, it was a very unique read for me again, so I really enjoyed it. I think I originally gave it 4.5 stars, but I rounded it up to 5 because it was just splendid. And then the second book within this standalone series is Next to You. And this one deals with a heroine who is dealing with some mental health issues, who, due to circumstance, decides that she's going to buy a school bus and transform it into her living space. And her best friend decides to help her out with that. So there's forced proximity as well. There's best friends to lovers. There's a lot of talk about how to get to your happy place, which I absolutely loved. And a lot of good discussions, a lot of good banter, a lot of good steam. And it was just I think really a top favorite of mine. When I think about it, I just cannot say enough positive things about this book, so it will definitely end up in my top reads of this year. The last book I'm going to mention is my last 5-star read so far for this year. The book is called Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. It just recently released and I read the audiobook for it through Storytel. I absolutely love this book. It centers on a wedding planner and a guy who is working at a florist shop, and they work together on events, and they have a bit of history together. We have a bit of a grumpy sunshine dynamic going on. We have a commitment phobe protagonist. We have a lot going on within this book that is just so good. So we've got a second chance, forced proximity in certain situations. We have caretaking within this story as well. We've got a hero that I just related to so much. I just don't want to spoil too much about the plot and talk throughout this whole video about this book, but there's just so much to say that is positive about this book, and I just cannot believe actually that this is a debut for this author, because it just sounds so amazingly experienced. Like there is life experience within this book, I believe, and I just love this. I love this. It's going to end up again in my top reads of the year, and I definitely recommend it. These were all the books that I wanted to mention that were 5-star reads for me until this point within the year. I had so much fun reading all these books, and I hope that you have a couple of books that you want to add to your TBR, or that you enjoyed as much as I did. Please let me know which were your favorites of this year so far. Let me know if there's books that I definitely need to have on my radar, and I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.